Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13 at greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives. And check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/greatdetectives. If you're enjoying the podcast, please follow us using your favorite podcast software. I do want to encourage you as you're making your travel plans, remember JohnnyDollarAir.com. JohnnyDollarAir.com is a Priceline affiliate link, so part of the purchase price benefits Great Detectives of Old Time Radio at no additional cost to you if you purchase a ticket through JohnnyDollarAir.com. So remember to check JohnnyDollarAir.com first. Well, now it is time for this week's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. The original air date is June the 2nd, 1957, and the title is The Loss of Memory Matter.
From Hollywood, it's time now for
Johnny Dollar.
Crutcher, Mr. Dollar. Lester Crutcher at Continental Insurance Company.
Oh, how are you, Mr. Crutcher?
Tell me, are you familiar with the Priest Expedition Collection?
Priest Expedition?
Some of the relics, artifacts of considerable archaeological import that were excavated from the ruins of the city of Ur in the valley of the Euphrates.
What?
Findings from the temple erected to the god Baer, which proved of such historical value to students of the ancient Babylonian civilization. You know.
Yeah, I certainly don't know. But what about it?
We carry some special insurance on that collection.
And what's happened to it?
Nothing yet. But I think you'd better come over and see me. Right away.
Okay, Mr. Crutcher. Why not?
Bob Bailey in the exciting adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
And now, Act One of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Continental Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. Following is an account of expenses incurred during my investigation of the loss of memory matter. Ancient Babylonia, Crutcher had said. So on the way down to his office, I stopped off at the library for a good look at the encyclopedia. And I learned that what was once Babylonia is now a part of the country of Iraq, one of the hot spots in the Middle East. Good. There might be some action, even international intrigue. On a map, I found the location of the long-forgotten city of Ur. The confluence of the Tigris and Euphrates River near the Persian Gulf was where it was. Romantic names, all of them. And not too far away, the exotic city of Baghdad. Yes, at long last, a trip to the Middle East.
Middle East?
Well, that's what the map said, Mr. Crutcher.
Near west is more like it, Dollar.
Huh?
You must have misunderstood me. The relics from the temple of the god Baer I mentioned are presently in the little town of Lakeview.
Lakeview?
Yes, right here in Connecticut.
I guess I did misunderstand.
They're owned by a Mr. Alvin Peabody Cartwright, who, I might venture to say, is a crackpot of the first order, but who happens to have placed a great deal of insurance with us on his life, property, art collection, and so forth.
I see. You mentioned a Priest's Expedition collection.
Of rare scrolls and tablets, principally, taken from excavations along the bank of the Euphrates River. Some of them over 4,000 years old, all of them of great historical and archaeological value. Here, this is a relatively unimportant piece that Mr. Cartwright gave to me some years ago.
Well, what is it?
What does it look like?
Like a tiny sort of sofa pillow. Only it's made out of dried mud or some... Hey, wait a minute. There are a lot of tiny marks on it.
Hieroglyphics, Dollar. Those are a perfect example of the cuneiform writing that was used by the ancients.
Oh, what's it say? Has anybody deciphered it?
It's a receipt for 24 fat sheep, 12 oxen, and 12 goats that were taken to the temple for sacrifice to the great god Baal.
Well, how about that? Does the whole collection consist of stuff like this?
Yes, and of priceless scrolls made of papyrus and leather. You've heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls?
Oh, yeah, sure. That throw so much light on biblical times. Yeah, they've had a lot of publicity in time and life and so on.
Yes. Those in the priest collection cover much of the history of the Canaanites and Phoenicians.
And you've insured the collection?
It's this way. Mr. Cartwright has decided to sell it to the museum here in Hartford. Has promised them that his stepson, Alfred Hocking, who lives with him, would deliver it to them today. But now he's suddenly worried to death that something will happen to it en route.
So?
So, to keep him happy, we've issued a $20,000 transit policy.
Well, then what's he worried about?
Now he demands a guard for it, too.
Well, doesn't he trust his stepson, this Alfred?
Who knows? Who knows what old Cartwright thinks, whom he trusts.
Well, now look,
And after all, $250 plus whatever expense account you can dream up for a couple of hours' drive in the country.
What if his own... Oh? Well, sure, why not? Expense account item 2, $50 deposit on a rental car in which I promptly headed north and west on Highway 44. The 50-odd mile drive to Lakeview was easy and pleasant. Finding Cartwright's home was also easy. It sat prominently atop a hill on the outskirts of the little town with perhaps 2 acres of ground around it. All of it looking worth a lot of money, yet rather seedy and run down. Alvin Peabody Cartwright himself greeted me at the door.
I take it you're Mr. Dollar.
That's right. Mr. Cartwright?
Let me see your credentials.
Oh, well, yeah, sure. All right, here you are.
Yes, all right, you can come in. This way, in my study. Right here. And there, Mr. Dollar, is the box containing the Babylonian relics.
That one carton is all that's to be delivered to the museum in Hartford?
That's all. Young man, the contents of that sealed carton are worth $21,000, and it's sealed, you understand, so that neither you nor that worthless stepson of mine can get your hands on any part of it. Alfred, this is Mr. Dollar. Alfred Hocking.
Hi, Dollar.
Oh, I'm sorry I didn't see you sitting back there.
Yeah.
Now let me finish this phone call that you interrupted. You still there, Mr. Waring? All right, now. Huh? Yes, he finally got here. Dollar's his name. That's right.
Shall I sit down?
Yeah, sure.
Well, just you be sure he identifies himself. Yes, and that he's accompanied by my stupid stepson, whose name's Alfred Hocking. Now, if only one of them appears, or if the seals on the carton are broken, you're not to accept it. Make him bring it back to me in a... No. Call the police. Yes, that's what I said. Call the police. Otherwise, give the money to Mr. Dollar. Not to that half-wit stepson of mine. I don't trust him. Now, they'll leave here shortly, and I know it's late, but Waring, just make sure that you're there waiting for them with the money. Goodbye.
Mr. Cartwright.
Yes? Well, what?
If you're so concerned about it, I can't help wondering why you haven't asked the police to guard this shipment for you.
Because I don't trust them. I don't trust them any more than I trust this numbskull Alfred.
Thanks.
I don't trust anybody.
Oh, does that include me?
Of course it does. Why do you suppose I'm having both of you take it over there? I'll tell you why, to keep an eye on each other. Now, get yourselves out of here and on the way to Hartford. Just be sure you bring that cash right back here to me tonight.
You mean check, don't you?
I mean cash. I don't believe in checks. I don't believe in banks. I don't trust them. I've kept all I have in my big safe here in the house for the past 47 years, and I intend to continue keeping it there, where I can watch over it myself. Now, go on, you and this dumb Alfred. Get out of here.
Dumb, Alfred? I'm not so sure. On the other hand, as we drove back toward Hartford with Alfred at the wheel, he said he knew a backcountry shortcut. I decided he just wasn't as clever as he'd like to be. Hey, take it easy, Al.
I'll give it to you straight, Dollar. I'd hoped the old buzzard would let me make this delivery alone. Because believe me, if he had, he'd never see 1 red cent of that 21 grand we're going to pick up.
I take it you and your stepfather don't get along too well.
It's putting it mild. But I'm telling you, boy, that once I figure a way to relieve him of his dough, he'll never see me again. $21,000. Boy, that would get me so far away from here, I tell you.
You, been living with him long?
All my life. The crazy old Scrooge has never let me have any money of my own. And me, I got a right to blow myself, have a little fun, as much as anybody.
Well, maybe he thinks you ought to work for it. Hey, now, you better slow down, Al.
Work, did you say? When he's got more than he'll ever be able to use stashed away in that old safe in the cellar? Why should I have to work?
Hey, I said take it easy, Al.
Why don't those trucks stay off those back country roads?
Oh, now, Al.
Why should I work when all I need to do is to get my hands on some of that pile he's got in the safe and I can live like a king? He'll never spend it, and he'll never leave it to me when he kicks off. That's why I haven't knocked him off myself, but believe me,
Al, look, just stop this crate and let me take the wheel.
Yeah, why?
Oh, with all your ranting and raving, you're all over the road.
Sure, okay. Sure, you can drive.
Well, stop.
Sure, I'll stop.
Look out, we'll skid.
Let us skid.
Look out! There was a long period of deep, dull blackness, without sound, without feeling. And then, slowly, hazily, the light came back, but it wasn't clear. Everything seemed very confusing, very vague. I was conscious of a terrible throbbing in my head, and then it slowly passed, leaving only a dull ache. A strange and helpless feeling of not knowing who or what or where I was, until the shadow of a man rose from the ground beside me. Slowly took definite form as it wavered for a moment, then stood over me.
How about you, boy? Back to the world again?
World?
Yeah, you really hit that windshield frame. Here, let me help you sit up. I'll lean you up against what's left of the car. And now.
Car?
Sure. Yeah, this is the wreck we cracked up in. There you are. Nothing busted. You were just knocked out.
Cracked up?
Sure. On our way to Hartford.
Hartford?
Hey. What's the matter with you?
I don't know. I can't seem to remember anything.
What do you mean? Not anything.
I can't remember. My mind is all blank.
Well, you know who you are, don't you?
No.
What?
No, and my head, it's...
Look. Are you kidding,
Hartford?
Bud?
Car?
Sure. Hartford, to deliver some stuff and collect the big wad. You're sure you don't remember?
I don't remember.
Not even who you
I don't
are?
remember. I'm trying to, but...
Well, I'll be... Okay, now listen. Everything's gonna be okay, real okay. You want to know who you are, huh?
Yeah, who I am.
Sure you do, and I'll tell you. Your name is Hocking. Alfred Hocking.
Alfred?
That's right, yeah. You're Alfred Hocking. We were driving along here in the car. See, I was. You were keeping me company, you get it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Sure you do, sure. You see, I have to deliver some stuff in Hartford. It's in this box here in the car. Hey, you see it?
Box? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just came along for the ride. The ride to Hartford, see?
Oh.
Yeah, and after I deliver this stuff and pick up make a little pickup, that is, why, then you and me will part and go our merry way, you see?
I don't know, I guess so.
Sure you do, sure you do.
Sure I do.
You feel better now, huh?
Yeah, much. If only my head would clear. If only I could remember something, anything.
Look, you're gonna be okay. Al?
Al. I'm Al.
That's right.
Yeah. But you... I can't remember.
Huh?
Who are you?
Me? My name is Johnny Dollar.
Dollar.
Yeah, remember that.
Johnny Dollar.
That's right. Yeah.
Act two of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in a moment.
We sometimes wonder, what is the life of a human being really worth? Not too much? Or maybe a great deal? Does it depend on whose life it is? Whatever the answer, one thing is certain. Fred Hargesheimer, since World War II, has felt that his life is worth quite a lot of gratitude. During the war in the Pacific, about June of 1943, Lieutenant Hargesheimer had his P-38 fighter plane shot out of the sky. Badly wounded, he bailed out over a tiny island, New Britain. It looked pretty small from where he hit the silk, but he found it much bigger when he hit the ground. It was bigger, and in complete control of the enemy. But Hargesheimer was lucky. After a month of lonely hiding, he was found by a group of friendly natives from the village of Nantambu. They cared for him and successfully hid him from enemy patrols for the next 4 months at the risk of their own lives. Then Hargesheimer was able to make it back to civilization. For the next 17 years, Fred Hargesheimer thought about those wonderful people of Nantambu. 12,000 miles away in the United States of America, Hargesheimer put a great plan into effect. He made speeches, took up collections, sold jewelry belonging to his family, and worked out a way to bring a bit of civilization and happiness to the little village of Nantambu. Needless to say, the villagers gave him a spectacular welcome upon his return. Fred Hargesheimer showed his gratitude to the people who had saved his life. But life is worth little without freedom, the right of all men, everywhere.
Now, Act Two of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, and the Loss of Memory Matter.
Amnesia. Sudden, complete amnesia. And all the feeling of utter helplessness that goes with it. The man who was with me told me of the crack-up of our car on the way to a place he called Hartford. Hartford meant nothing to me. Nor did I recognize anything of the countryside or the road where we sat waiting, hoping someone would pick us up. Names, places, I remembered nothing. Not even who I was, or who the man with me was.
That's right. Dollar. I'm Johnny Dollar.
I see.
And your name is Hocking. Alfred Hocking.
Hocking.
Yeah. Yeah, you're feeling better, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, look in the pocket of your coat.
Pocket? Oh,
Isn't there a billfold there? Yeah, open it up.
yeah, here's
Yeah, there's a name in it? Sure, see?
Alfred P. Hocking.
That's right, that's you. And I'm Johnny Dollar. Just remember that and everything will be all right. Now, why don't some truck come along and pick us up, or a car?
What are we doing out here, Johnny?
You see this box? Well, I've got orders to deliver it to the museum in Hartford.
Museum, huh? What's in it?
No, just some old relics. Then I'll collect the money for it, and that'll be that. You can be on your merry way, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
Sure.
But how come I'm going with you, Johnny?
Why, you live in Hartford, see?
Oh, I see.
You didn't even know that. You still don't remember anything.
Only what's happened since I woke up here. Look now.
Yeah?
Why don't you take me home first, if we can get a ride, that is, and maybe if I rest, I'll feel better.
No.
Maybe my mind will clear up.
No, first the museum.
But, Johnny...
All right, listen. The crazy old coot I'm delivering this stuff for, he phoned ahead that there'd be two of us, see, so you got to come along to the museum.
Museum?
Yeah, the museum, the one in Hartford, like I told you.
Oh, yes, Hartford.
But once I get the money for it, I'll take care of you. Yeah, I'll take care of you.
You've done pretty good as it is, I guess.
Sure I have, Al. I've pulled you out of the wreck and all. Hey, look, here comes a big moving van, and if I know those boys, he'll pick us up. Come on, get up on your feet, and we'll flag him down.
The helpful driver of the big cross-country truck picked us up and was all for getting me to a hospital before anything else. But my companion, who called himself Johnny Dollar, assured him he'd do it as soon as our mission was accomplished. So the driver agreed to take us directly to the museum Johnny had mentioned. Johnny Dollar. The name had a strangely familiar sound, but I couldn't remember. Finally, in the city, they told me he was Hartford, we pulled up in front of a large, rather imposing granite building.
You sure somebody will still be there waiting to meet you, mister? It's getting pretty late. Don't worry, driver. There'll be somebody, all right. Okay, but you sure you don't want any wait and take your friend Al to a hospital? Like I told you, the minute we're through here, I'll take care of him. Come on, Al.
Sure. Thanks, driver.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, boys. If I couldn't give somebody in trouble a hand, I'd have no business driving this rig. Come on, here's your package. Oh, thanks again. Now, come on, Al.
Okay, Johnny.
I'll do all the talking, and you just remember who you are.
Sure. Let me help you carry that.
You just push the bell button there beside...
Well, it's about time. Which of you is Mr. Dollar?
That's me. Hi, Mr. Waring. Here's my credentials.
Yes. Then you...
Al Hocking.
Oh, yes. Just as Mr. Cartwright said on the phone. But what happened to you?
I had a little car accident on the way.
Oh, yes. Are you feeling all right, Mr. Hocking?
Well, my...
Oh, sure. I'm going to take care of him as soon as we leave here. So, if you don't mind, you've got something for me, haven't you?
Of course. Seals are still intact.
Sure are, in spite of the accident.
Oh, very well. If you'll step inside, I'll give you the money.
Good. Come on, Al.
I must confess my bewildered mind was somewhat puzzled by what happened next. Mr. Waring opened a small wall safe and handed my companion a package. From it, he extracted and counted almost greedily $21,000. He signed a receipt, accepted a receipt for the packet of bills. Then we left the museum and hailed a taxi.
Hey, buddy, you know a drive-your-own-car place that's still open?
Sure do.
Then take us there, and there's an extra fin for you if you step on it.
Right you are.
Johnny, can't the cabbie take me home first?
I said I'd take care of you, didn't I? All right, now, don't ask any questions. We haven't got time.
Maybe I had lost all memory. Maybe my mind was befuddled, confused, the pain in my head nearly driving me out of whatever sanity I'd retained. Nonetheless, I had a strange feeling that things weren't what they should be. Still, my friend, this Johnny Dollar who'd saved me from the wrecked car, if only I could remember things from before we cracked up. There was something strange, too, in the way he slowly, painstakingly signed the application for the drive-your-own car, looking carefully all the while at the license he pulled out of his pocket. Then a few minutes later, we were on the road again, and we were heading, according to the highway signs, out of town and toward a place called Danbury on Route 6.
These rental cars could stand a little souping up.
Look, Johnny, I thought you were going to take me home.
I am.
But you said I live in Hartford.
Listen, if I know that stepfather of yours, the sooner we get out of the state...
What? What were you going to say?
Nothing. Now, listen. I gotta get you to a hospital, see, and the best one I know is over the line in New York. You want to get your memory back, don't you?
Yeah, sure, but now look, Al.
Huh? What'd you say?
It's funny. I called you Al.
What's funny about it? Sure you aren't beginning to remember things, huh? How about it?
I wish to heaven I could. But now, look, Johnny, there's something funny about all this. I may be a bit muddled after that crack-up we were in, but it seems...
You are muddled. That's the reason you're getting crazy ideas, but don't. See? Just quit thinking and relax, so you might do something you'd be sorry for. Yeah, real sorry.
This determination of his to get across the state line. Things were wrong, and I knew it. But I didn't know why. A man's judgment is based on his experience, or his reasoning powers, based on things he's done or that have happened to him, or at the very least on things he's known about in the past. And all of my knowledge of the past was gone from me. Anything I might do or say at this point would probably be wrong. So how could I argue with this Johnny Dollar? What's more, he had a gun. I'd felt it in his pocket when he bumped against me. Perhaps if I had a gun, I could stop him, demand an explanation. I felt that I should. Why? I didn't know why, but somehow. Johnny,
Yeah?
why are you so anxious to get into another state?
I told you to get you to a hospital. Now shut up.
Oh, listen to me.
Don't ask questions. Just leave everything to me.
Well, why is driving all this distance, 50 or 60 miles now, better than if you'd taken me to a hospital or doctor back in Hartford?
I told you to stop asking questions.
Yeah. Johnny, why do you carry a gun?
Why shouldn't I? Don't worry about it.
Are you supposed to?
Sure. I got a permit, so forget it.
Let me see it.
Hey, what is this? Later.
Now.
Later, I said.
Then I don't believe you.
All right, then here. Look in this card case.
I looked in Johnny Dollar's card case. His driver's license, business cards that said he was a freelance insurance investigator. And again, something vaguely familiar stirred in my cloudy mind.
You find it yet?
And then an identification card with thumbprint and snapshot. And the picture was not of the man beside me. Instinctively, I leaned over to look into the rear-view mirror to look at myself. But he pulled the gun from his pocket, and before I could do it, he struck me hard across the head.
All right now, Al. We're gonna stop. You hear me, Al?
Yeah. You hit me with that gun.
That's right.
That was a mistake. Because that second blow on the head. Why have we stopped?
You'll see. You see, you gave me an idea about this gun. Now, get out.
Sure. Why not?
Pretty wobbly, huh? All right, now. Look down over the side of the road there.
What about it?
See that deep ravine down there?
Why? Al?
That's why. Because you called me Al. And this time you meant it.
Yeah. I guess I did. Thanks to that poke on the head.
So, you got some of your memory back, huh? But not your strength. No. So before you do...
No, put that away. Oh, you're not going to get away. Expense account total so far, $95 even, including doctor bills. Repair bill on rental car is still to come, and strangely enough, old Cartwright is perfectly willing to pay it and any other expenses that may be involved. He's a changed man with his chiseling stepson out from underfoot. Also, I'll be required to appear in court against Alfred Hocking, and there'll be expenses involved there, too. The extra $500 Cartwright insisted I take doesn't go in this account since it came out of his own pocket. Not bad for just a couple of wallops on the head, huh? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Now, here is our star to tell you about next week's story.
Next week? Well, it's another case of mistaken identity, but believe me, a completely different affair. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, originates in Hollywood. It is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone, who also wrote tonight's story. Heard in our cast were Les Tremayne, Parley, Baer, Joseph Kearns, Barney Phillips, Tom Hanley, and Shepard Menken. Musical supervision is by Amerigo Marino. Be sure to join us next week, same time and station, for another exciting story of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
This is the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Welcome back. I think this is a story that just gave Bob Bailey a chance to act, and he does a good job and makes for a believable amnesiac, and it has a somewhat believable regaining of memory from this sort of temporary amnesia right up until the end. A second blow when you have amnesia will not restore your memory. Although it's a mistaken belief, it wasn't one that originated with Johnny Dollar or was limited to it. I mean, I think I saw that trope being used in some sitcoms that I saw from the 1960s or maybe even into the 80s. Now, in fact, many scientists actually thought that this was the case back in the 19th century. There was a French doctor who came up with a theory that the brain's two hemispheres actually both perform the same function, kind of like with your eyes and your ears. Rather than what we now know is that the two hemispheres actually perform very different functions. But as part of his theory, came the idea that a second blow to the head could actually fix head trauma with things like amnesia. And eventually, we came to realize, no, actually hitting somebody on the head the second time will only make things worse. But by then, there had developed a lot of anecdotes. And so it became this cultural myth that made it into even a Johnny Dollar episode right towards the end of the 1950s. Cartwright in this was kind of brutal, just ripping his nephews to shreds right in front of him. Of course, hearing the nephew talk and just how transparent he was with Johnny, even before the little blow gave him his opportunity, you get the idea, especially at the ending, that with the nephew out of the way, Cartwright lightened up. Now, the character in this episode is played by Parley Baer. However, it would be taken over by Howard McNear, who is probably the definitive actor to play Alvin Cartwright. Well, now we turn to listener comments and feedback, and we have a couple of comments regarding the discussion of the best Johnny Dollar. First, we have an email where a listener writes, well, you and your listeners commenting about the best Johnny Dollar today push my buttons enough to chime in. Every actor in the show did quite well, in my opinion. Bailey is regarded as the best by today's audience because his era of the show is most like what today's audience is looking for. His version of Johnny represents the fancy and fantasy of the baby boomer generation and came on when they were coming of age. It coincides with a profound change in American culture. The show took a sudden shift when Bob took over from a mystery/detective series to a dramatic adventure suspense soap opera. In the first 5 stories, Johnny had 4 different love interests. 5 if you count the dancer/Oriental import syndicate leader. Oh, Johnny, let's get married. Johnny, marry me. Johnny, let's get married tonight. Gag me with a spoon, please. Society changed from people who had daily purposeful responsibilities for survival to relative comfort with time for fantasy. They enjoyed it and still do. Accidentally meeting and falling in lust with his next case and ultimately criminal is just too ridiculous. Kramer's version is too predictable and campy for long term and would not have lasted beyond a single season if not for the show's long history. Every fan knows that if their fortune, lives, or future depended upon Johnny figuring it out, they would want Russell's, O'Brien's, or Lund's Johnny on the case. Follow the yellow brick road detective is not enough. I enjoy every era. I just like the premise. I like the pre-Bailey best because Johnny is a man's man and he studies clues rather than talking to everybody forever. I like the mystery over romance and drama. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to share, and I would agree that the series under Bailey is more in line with modern expectations. So we've had listeners in the past who have emailed and compared Johnny Dollar episodes with Bob Bailey to the Rockford Files. Now, in terms of the overall sociological comments about turning to fantasy as things were less perilous and there was more leisure, I actually think that the opposite is true in terms of fantasy, because if you look during the Great Depression, you didn't have these sort of grounded, serious heroes, or at least not exclusively. Buck Rogers came out right before the stock market crashed. Flash Gordon in 1934. And then you had Superman appear in 1938. And Superman, in his first appearance, is the ultimate fantasy in a world of injustices. He muscles his way into the governor's mansion to have an innocent woman freed from being executed. Swoops down and rescues a wife from her abusive husband. And then takes on an unethical weapons manufacturer who's trying to plunge the world into another war. And the fact is that during the war, the men who were fighting the war, who had the most purposeful jobs in history, were eating up comic books. And it wasn't just comics. The detective stories, the pulp detectives that were so popular in things like Black Mask, could be quite fanciful and romantic. And even the idea of the hard-boiled detective had this origin in being inspired by the idea of the knights of old, the analogy being used of a knight in tarnished armor. So often when people refer to that era from the 30s to maybe the early 50s in hard-boiled detective fiction. And I think Edmund O'Brien's take on Johnny Dollar really does fit into that hard-boiled detective mold. And I love all that stuff. I think that what makes Bailey's take on Johnny Dollar appealing to modern audiences is the humanity. And while I'd agree that it can be a bit ridiculous if every week he's having a different love interest, I think it's an attempt to round him out, make him more human. And of course, it's not just in the romantic sense. He has friendships. He has people that he cares about, and he becomes involved on a human level in many of the cases that he becomes involved in. Now, I will say that in a lot of modern fiction, this has probably gone way too far. There are programs that I've watched, I won't name names, but there are series, and there are productions that can take this way too far. You know, I have watched series in the past where hero will be like, okay, I've got 20 minutes, and then if I don't act, the entire city will be destroyed. I need to go and take care of this. And then, no, we need to talk about us. No, he needs to go and take care of the bomb. And then you can talk about your relationship stuff after he saved the city, okay? But obviously, that's not going on in Johnny Dollar. But it's definitely going in a direction of bringing more humanity and depth to the character. And I think the fact that he feels more real is part of why listeners connect with him even more so today. Obviously, don't feel like it's a requirement, but I think it's a nice feature of this particular take on Johnny Dollar. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate your perspective. And then Julie writes in, currently listening to the blasphemy that your one listener wrote disparaging Bob Bailey. Ridiculous. Bob Bailey is Johnny Dollar. You did a good job explaining it, especially his different personalities. You are an expert. Embrace it. Thanks for the comment, Julie. And I actually like expert better than scholar, and I can embrace that. And then we have a comment from YouTube, and listener writes, I made this comment after an episode of Tales of the Texas Rangers. Writers used to use Germans as an allegory for racism and prejudice. Had they written episodes highlighting racism and prejudice of the time in the Jim Crow South, these episodes would have been banned in the South and the show possibly dropped from the local affiliate network. Gene Roddenberry, Andy Griffith, and Rod Serling all had problems with this on the television side of CBS. Thank you for the comment, and I think that definitely happened to an extent, but I don't think it would be a good conclusion to infer that every time you see or hear a play where they're talking about some German immigrant being mistreated, that it's really a commentary on the Jim Crow South. Part of the challenge with that interpretation is that the reaction that many people had to Germans was really a thing. When my mother was a little girl, and she's a boomer, she heard a lot of people talking bad about Germans. And she knew that part of the family heritage was German, that she was part German, and she and her sister were trying to figure out which parts of them were German. So obviously you did have actual sentiments like that. And there were a lot of groups that had to deal with discrimination, with social ostracization. And oftentimes, all of these problems tended to be lumped under the idea of bigotry and intolerance. That said, there absolutely was an issue about specifically calling out stuff that was going on in Jim Crow and would lead to the exact sort of problems that you talked about. And certainly if you wanted to talk about bigotry, intolerance, or bullying, many creators avoided referencing what was going on with Black Americans for the reasons you suggested. And the easiest way to address those sort of issues in general was to use a group that it was socially acceptable, not going to cause you problems, to say you shouldn't bully them. After the first time I read your remark, I was actually watching an episode of Davy and Goliath with my son from the 1960s, and they had an episode on bullying and intolerance and dealing with people who were different, and the title of the episode was Polka Dot Tie, and essentially it was a situation where Davy and his friends were not wanting to be friends with a boy who wore a polka dot tie because his friend's dad had told him not to trust people wearing polka dot ties. So in truth, there was discrimination against people and mistreatment of people for having German heritage. But it's also true that writers would use some other characteristic or ethnicity that's less likely to stir controversy from their audience. Thank you so much for the comment. Now it is time to thank our Patreon supporter of the day, and I want to go ahead and thank Bill. Bill's been one of our Patreon supporters since November 2020, currently supporting the podcast at the Detective Sergeant level of $7.14 or more per month. Thank you so much for your support, Bill. And that'll actually do it for today. If you're enjoying the podcast, please follow us using your favorite podcast software, and be sure to rate and review the podcast wherever you you download it from. We'll be back next Friday with another episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, but join us back here tomorrow for Dragnet, where...
Here, let me show you. There. Now, for one thing, the victim had a basal skull fracture. I don't know about you gentlemen, but in the hit-and-run cases I've handled, a basal fracture is a pretty rare thing.
Well, it is possible, isn't it?
Yes, it's possible. Anything's possible, as they say. But it's not usual. And a few other things here, too.
Yeah.
Notice the victim's knee here. Single clean cut. Also, these wounds on the head. I've never seen anything like it in hit-and-run cases I've been called on.
Yeah, that wound on the knee doesn't jibe, does it? If he was hit by a car, the knee should be skinned up quite a bit.
Exactly. Well, you know how it usually is. The automobile hits the victim. There's always signs that the body was either dragged or thrown. Shredding of clothing, skin knees, legs, elbows. No sign of that here.
You don't think the victim could have been killed by hit-and-run cars, eh?
No, I don't say that. It's possible that it might have been a car, but, well, let's say it's not very probable.
I hope you'll be with us then. In the meantime, send your comments to box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter @Radio Detectives and check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/greatdetectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.